this video, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to R. One of the goals is by the end of the course, each student will learn to use a statistical software to analyze a data set. The aim of this video is to help introduce you to R for those students that choose to use R. Some students will choose to use SAS instead. There will be a separate video on SAS. The very first thing I want to show you is how to install R on your computer. Located in the worksheet, you'll notice two links. The first one will bring you to the Comprehensive R archive, and you'll see a website that looks much like this. There will be three different links for download. These links will help you download the R language. Depending on if you have a Mac or Windows, you'll want to click one of these downloads and then install the file. When using R, in addition to downloading the R language, you're also going to want to download what is called R Studio. The second link in the install instructions will look like this. This will get you R Desktop. Looking at the different installers, you'll want to choose the operating system you have. If you have a Mac, choose this option. If you have Windows, choose the Windows 10 option. Once you download these, again, you'll go through the installation setup and it will walk you through it. Once you have both of these installed on your computer, if you scroll through the different things that you have installed, you should now see R and R Studio. For this course, you'll never actually use the base R language, which is this one right here. We're going to use what's called R Studio. So just a little overview of R. Just to see what it looks like, we'll click on it. So this is plain R. R is a free software environment for statistical computing and graphics. According to Wikipedia, the R language is widely used among statisticians and data miners for developing statistical software and data analysis. Polls and surveys of data miners are showing R's popularity has increased substantially in recent years. There are two related ways you can use R. You can simply write commands and use the preloaded functions, or you can write your own. In either case, it's generally a bad idea to type commands directly into R, since these commands are often hard to track. Also, if a mistake is made in a command, it's hard to fix. Instead, use a text editor to write a script, and either copy and paste the commands into R or use source functions to run the script. Notice that one of these editors is R Studio, and that's what we're going to use for this course. So I'm going to close this out because, again, this is just showing you what R looks like, but we're never actually going to use this. What we're going to use is R Studio. R Studio is a much more friendly way to access the R language. So clicking on R Studio. But again, I do want to emphasize that we did have to download R in order for R Studio to work. So here's R Studio. R Studio is a free R editor that can be used along with R. R Studio can be found under the Start menu in the Programs tab, as just illustrated. When you first open R Studio, there are 4 different tabs. Notice that right now we only see 3. So to get the 4th tab, what you'll want to do is click on this button right here and just click on R Script. And now we have our 4 different panels. So let's look at each of these. The first one is the console. The console is this piece right here. Notice that we could type directly into the console. So for example, I could type in 1 plus 1 and hit enter, and the console will tell me that that is equal to 2. Script window. This is where you can type R commands and save them so that you can reproduce and reanalyze your results. This right here is the script window. Notice I could type 1 plus 1 equal to the script window, but when I hit enter, nothing happens. To get this to appear in the console, I would highlight it, click on Run, and it will automatically appear down below. You can think of the script window as where you're actually going to type and save everything, and then the console is where those things will actually be performed or where they will run. The Workspace/History. Workspace shows all of the variables currently loaded into R Studio. That's this window right here. History gives a list of all the commands you've typed in the R session. various extra features. These are located in this window down here. The two tabs that I use the most often are Plots, and we'll use Plots a lot later in the course, and Help, which displays the help for a function already built into R. In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to create or how to follow all of the instructions for the Introduction to R worksheet. So to start at the beginning, under step 1, it says create an R script. We already have RStudio open. It says next, click on the green and white plus symbol in the upper left-hand corner and select R script. We now have a script that we can work with. Click on File in the upper left corner and select Save As. We're going to save our file as last name Intro to R. You can save this file anywhere on your computer. Make sure to save it in a place where you can locate it later. R uses the pound symbol to comment code. Any line starting with this symbol is considered a comment, and R will not try to run it. We're going to click on the script window, which is right here, and type the following, adding the appropriate information. So for example, I'm going to start out by adding my name. Next, I'm going to identify what worksheet this R script is for. And then I'm going to put today's current date. It's always a good idea to start each script this way, so that later on when you open it, you have a nice reminder of what is located in this script. Anytime we're working, we can also hit the Save button here to save our current work. You can think of this script as almost like a Word document. We're going to use it to type text, but additionally we can type different commands for R as well. Step 2, we're going to read in our data. These data were obtained in a survey of students' math and Portuguese language courses in a secondary school. It contains a lot of interesting social, gender, and study information about the students. You can read more about the data following the link that's located in the worksheet. There are several ways to read data into R. We're going to follow some steps to help you walk through how to read in a data set. The first thing you're going to want to do is download the file from Canvas and save that file to your computer in a place where you can find it. Pause the video while you do that. Now that you have the file saved to your computer in RStudio, at the top of the Workspace History window, which is this part right here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Import Dataset. And then we're going to select From Text Base. Now the reason we selected that is because the file that we're importing is a CSV file. CSV stands for Comma Separated Values and is a type of text file. Next thing we're going to do is navigate to where you have that file saved on your computer. I'm going to click on the file. Notice this window is going to come up. Next to Heading, we're going to select Yes, because this data set has different headings. And then we're just going to click on Import in the bottom right. Notice when I do this, a couple things happened. 1, 2 lines of code appeared down in the console. This line of code is the actual line of code that reads in the data set. Notice that we have student.mat, and then we have a left pointing arrow, and then the line of code. What this is doing is this is assigning an object that's called student.mat equal to the data set that we read in. The next line of code, the view student.mat, what that does is it says we would like to view our data set. This piece generates the new file that appeared up at the top. Notice here we have student.mat, and here we can visualize all of the data that we just read in. So we can scroll up or down, or left and right to visualize all of that data. What we're going to do is we're going to copy these 2 lines of code that were generated for us. We're going to go back up to our script that we created, and we're going to paste those 2 lines of code. Now when we paste those 2 lines of code, we do want to get rid of the character at the beginning. Notice that will get rid of our red X's. And now we have the 2 lines of code ready to go to read in this data set. So in the future, if we're working, all we have to do is read in these 2 lines of code, and we won't have to go through the import step. One thing that we could change here is instead of the arrow, we could have an equal sign, because those mean the exact same thing to R. Step 3. We're now going to explore the data. It's always a good idea to comment your code with each of the different things that you're doing. So, since we're going to explore the student data, what we're going to do is we're going to type in a comment that says exploration of student data. These comments are just for us. R won't read them, but again, they serve as a nice reminder of what everything we're doing is. Next, we're going to type in the following comment and the following set of code. The comment that we're going to type in tells us that the in-call function. Now, we know this is a function because anytime we have a name with an open and closed parenthesis after it, that denotes a function. So this function finds the number of columns in a data set. To use this function, what we're going to do is we're going to type in call, and then inside of the parentheses, we need to type in the name of the data set we're interested in. Well, remember that we named our data set up here at the top student.mat. So I'm going to type in student.mat down here. Now, RStudio is smart enough that if I have an object, in other words, student.mat, that's already known to RStudio, it will do an autofill for me. So I can click on this and fill that in the rest of the way. Also, notice up here in my environment, I could also see student.mat. So now we could run this function to find the number of columns in our data set. Clicking run, we find that there are 33 columns. We could also find the number of rows. And notice that the number of rows in our data set will also tell us the number of observations. So I'm going to start out with, again, another comment just to remind myself what this line of code is going to perform. Now we can use the in-row function, and again we're going to apply that to our data set that we created. To run this line of code, I can highlight it and click run, and notice that we find there are 395 rows in this data set. Looking over here at our environment window, we also could have seen that information. Notice that it tells us student.mat has 395 observations with 33 different variables. Clicking this button, we can actually see what each of those different variables are. We could also use the names function to find the names of the variables. So again, writing a comment to remind ourselves of what this function is going to do. We're going to call the names function and type in the name of our data set. Highlighting it and running it. Down here at the bottom, we get all of the names of the variables, and again we could compare them with the summary over here as well. We can also call individual variables from a data set using the $sign. So again, writing ourselves a comment to remind ourselves of what the dollar symbol does. We type in the name of our data set, $sign, and notice when we do this, the options for all of the different variables in our data set will come up, and we can choose absences. Running this line of code, we see all of the values for absences. One important thing to keep in mind is that R is case sensitive. So make sure that all of the letters are the appropriate upper or lower case. We can use our mouse to highlight all of the code we've written so far and run all of it at once. And notice all of it gets run again down here in the console. If the code doesn't run, again, remember that R is case sensitive to make sure to check this. Also, make sure that you don't forget any of the pound signs in front of the comments. This is your very first introduction to R. You'll want to save this file, and now that you have this file, you'll want to submit this .r file to Canvas. In the future, you'll see a lot more on how to work with R, read in data sets, and work with those data sets so that we can learn from data.